on The Chris Smith Show. This is All Things Automotive with Sydney City Lexus and Sydney City Toyota Managing Director John Roca.
Well, let's just rephrase that and say he drives good cars anyway. Hello, mate.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Happy
We
New
don't
Year,
be
Bill.
too cocky. Happy New Year to you too.
Happy New Year to your
John.
listeners as well.
Look, and seriously, I won't ask you to buy into the whole road safety speed thing. It's probably a little bit unfair. You're welcome to comment on it if you wish. But the interesting thing, though, that we wanted to talk about today was car sales in Australia, the trends. I think we made mention sometime in the past couple of weeks about what kind of cars are selling.
Yes.
And nothing's changed, mate.
No. In fact, well, firstly, a lot of people are buying cars. So more people bought cars in 21 than they did in 2020.
And that's despite supply issues.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's quite interesting. The manufacturers actually, in the end, did a pretty good job. And I've got to commend also my fellow dealers who did a really good job basically processing and moving the goalposts as, the COVID pandemic changed almost weekly.
Right.
And obviously, thanks to all of our customers that supported the industry as well. We sold over 1 million cars last year. So 1,049,831 to be exact, which is 14.5% increase versus the previous year, which you wouldn't have thought, would you?
Do you reckon? I don't know. I'd have to think this more deeply, but perhaps not being able to travel overseas and in some cases not even being able to travel interstate.
Definitely.
People were looking at short-term trips, perhaps weekend trips, day trips, and thought, you know what? I'm going to do it in a new car. Could that have been an influence?
Big time. That's the feedback we're getting from a lot of our customers.
Right.
They're saying we're going to drive holiday instead of fly. We're going to upgrade the car. Interest rates extremely low has helped that as well.
Yep.
We've had customers that have been paying higher interest rates on their current car, changing over to a brand new car and the repayments are the same.
Right.
So that's been a good one as well.
Yeah, finance, ideally you don't want to have finance for anything other than your home.
Yeah.
But, of course, for a lot of people, finance is a crucial decision in buying a car.
Absolutely. And quite common that I think it's about 80% of buyers that actually finance their cars. The interesting part for me is if supply had have been what it should have been, I think the market would have been 20 to 25% stronger.
That much?
Well, we've got people waiting. There are waiting lists for cars in our product and other product lines that are 12 months. So if they had have come in, if those boats had have come in and we had have delivered them, it would have been a record year.
For any industry, a 20 to 25% increase is
it's massive.
Mad, yeah.
And we actually got 14.5. Imagine adding another 20 to 25 to that.
It is exceptional. And what about, we talked about utes, and congratulations for Toyota because the Hilux was there, the Ford Ranger right behind. It's extraordinary, this whole
what a
ute
battle.
thing.
Yes.
Are there that many tradies in Australia? I don't think so. I think it's more like people are using utes for all kinds of stuff.
It's the family car. It's become the family car. The SUV is obviously still very popular, but SUVs buyers have gone to the small SUV, but the Hilux and, the Ford Rangers, it's the family car.
The small SUV, I don't have a problem with. As you know, I'm a station wagon advocate.
Yes.
I'm the champion of station wagons.
They're making a comeback. You and I are going to bring
Really?
the station wagon back.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're with me, mate. We can start.
with you.
We start a little society here.
Yeah, good idea.
We can even start saying on Twitter and things that people are station wagon phobic and sort of attack them that way. And
Seems to be the way.
we could have the Station Wagon Association. John and I are starting it up now. The joining fees are modest. We'll work that out shortly.
Yes.
Depends on how much money John and I actually want to put in our pockets. But anyway, what I'm saying is that the old station wagon that a lot of us grew up rolling around in the back of, which we don't do anymore, but I don't mind the old SUVs. I've had a bit of laughter here on that because I was referring to as a passenger, not as other things. Please. Now, the
vehicle.
The little SUV, I get that. It's a nice way to put a surfboard or a bike in something.
Yeah, perfect.
All those things. I do understand the small SUV.
Your little urban SUV, very popular.
And then, they're just handy little vehicles to put a bit of stuff in and all that sort of stuff. I get it. And people, as we discussed earlier, people like to sit a bit higher in the car. So what are the trends in terms of the vehicles sold, the types of vehicles? I believe there are a couple of interesting aspects beyond the SUV ute thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've had, the segments haven't really changed. Everybody's going to a smaller car, it seems. SUVs definitely are now outselling passenger cars, so that's a fact. And you would add the utes, the 4x4 utes to that as well. But it's interesting that it's been fairly steady in terms of segments. Your mid-sized sedan car just doesn't seem to sell very much anymore. Those players that do sell them are sort of dominating, and the manufacturer that I represent, Toyota, is doing really well with the Camry. But it's been interesting how it's varied. An interesting point for me was when you look at the national numbers. If you go by state, it was interesting that Victoria, in particular, was locked down really heavily in comparison to most states. They actually grew 20.4% last year, which exceeded what the total market did. So isn't it interesting?
They bought a lot of cars, couldn't drive them.
Exactly.
Well,
so
they might have driven them from the delership back home, and that's about it, if it was in 5Ks or whatever it was.
Exactly. And we talk about changing segments, changing methods of buying a car. The old click and collect was obviously a really popular thing, right?
Ah, yes.
Because to be able to achieve 20.4% growth and not visit a dealership, you were buying that car online. And we've spoken about that, about new cars. The only state that didn't achieve or grow versus the previous year was the ACT that dropped 18.7%. That's quite interesting.
Stunningly big drop compared to the trend elsewhere, isn't it?
Massive, yeah. So maybe
Did they recently? I know they put they've got a light rail down Northbourne Avenue in Canberra, but that's about all I know about public transport there. The buses have been pretty good over the years, but
well, I'm told that close to an election, the public servants sort of have a bet each way. They're not sure they're going to have a job next year, so it might be I won't update the car until then. Maybe
they might have had a population decrease.
That could be it. The leading state was the Northern Territory, 27.2%.
Well, they probably do a lot of driving.
Yeah,
it's a big place.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of distance in between everything.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
Dennis says, Tonka toys for the big men, referring obviously to utes, I suppose, and probably SUVs as well. Love my Lexus GS350. Good on you, Dennis. Get some commercial
Dennis,
in
well
there
done.
for Lexus.
Great car.
Here's a question from Avi, and I'll get to Ron. Sorry, Ron's been waiting, and he's got a kind of a road safety thing to talk about, but I'm sure you won't mind taking that call, John. But just quickly, Avi says, any updates on the Lexus LX on price and wait times? Will it be as long as the Land Cruiser? And is there a release date?
It is a similar size to the Land Cruiser, almost identical. The launch is February, and the price will range from $140 to $185.
Okay.
And a lot of pre-orders on that car already.
Now, there's a relationship, of course, between driving and cars and this whole issue of road safety. Ron, thanks for waiting on, mate. I appreciate it. You got a comment on the Autobahns?
Hey,
That's right. I've driven many miles in German Autobahns, and I feel much safer doing 140 in the slow lane with everything going past me and trucks in a separate lane. You're not bothered with trucks at all than I am here doing 110 and having to keep an eye on the speedo and having trucks climb up your backside sort of thing, you know?
Yep.
It's so relaxing over there, and you're much more alert, and you're not thinking of your speed all the time. You hardly need to look at the speedo at all. And I've driven thousands of Ks over there.
Yeah, that's a very interesting sort of strategic or policy issue, Ron. But what about the standard of driving? Well, I've got you. I mean, I've driven a lot in Europe too, but not as much as you obviously have. But do you feel like the standard of driving is better? And I'll make some clear distinctions here. On the motorways anyway.
Tailgate.
Yeah.
They certainly don't tailgate like they do here.
Now, I must say, when you get deep into some of the cities in Europe, the driving is crazy.
Oh, absolutely.
It's appalling in an aggressive way. Not so much an inexperienced factor. It's just aggressive. But Ron, thank you for your call, mate. I appreciate it. It's an interesting one there, and I think anyone who's driven in Naples or somewhere like that's going to go, "You're kidding me, aren't you? Better drivers." But it's a method there rather than a lack of training, I think. It's an approach, it's an attitude. Coming up to 24 to 12 in New South Wales, 24 to 11 in Queensland. More of John Roca after the break. If you want to give us a call, 131873, any questions about automotive business, or drop us a line on 0460 873 873.
At Domain, holiday at home. Save up to 60% off ex-display and discontinued mattresses and ensembles, plus receive a bonus mattress protector and bonus local delivery on mattresses over $9.99. Save up to 50% off ex-display and discontinued bedroom furniture. Get 60 months interest-free, no deposit, no interest from Latitude with 60 approximately equal monthly payments and receive a bonus gift card up to $1,000. Now at Domain. Finance only available on participating Latitude credit cards. Minimum financed amount $1,000. See T's and C's. Interest applies for non-compliance. Fees and product exclusions apply.
The tennis world's greatest are ready for TV's biggest blockbuster. With every match on every court streaming free on 9 now. Listen to the Aussie Open starts January 17 on 9.
At Specsavers, we know you can't go through life with only one outfit, so why have only one pair of glasses? Get 2 designer pairs, no gap, from the $199 single vision range with selected health funds. Should have gone to Specsavers. Conditions apply.
Lost in the Sahara Desert, Lars has a craving.
Water!
Thanks to Salesforce Customer 360, the teams at Hydration Nation come to the rescue. The marketing team offers him a selection.
Bubbly?
And the service team suggests an upgrade.
Oh, raspberry.
With Salesforce Customer 360, all your teams unite around Lars to make him a happy, hydrated customer. Learn how to succeed from anywhere at salesforce.com/au/360.
It's time to get serious.
It's time to get serious about watching less TV.
And getting back out again.
It's time to get serious about starting a new chapter.
And focusing more on myself and less on the kids.
It's time to get serious about putting myself out there.
About dating again.
And starting something new.
Something worthwhile.
Something long-term.
It's time to get serious about RSVP.
For serious singles like you.
Like me.
Like me.
Australia's most trusted dating site.
RSVP.com.au. Join for free today.
Repaired my fuel line in Jindabyne.
Fixed a spark plug lead in Westmead.
A heater hose in Belrose.
A fuel pump relay in Bateman's Bay. A battery down in Blacktown.
Got my car unlocked in Cessnock.
The NRMA is Australia's leading roadside assistance network. With more patrols in more places, we get you moving every time, no matter where you are.
A fixed thermostat in Captain's Flat.
A tyre change in Taree.
This is roadside assistance. To join, search NRMA Roadside now.
It's a great time to be on holidays. The days are filled with family road trips. The car's packed, snacks stocked, road games ready to go. Just one thing to do. Fill up with Shell V-Power 98, the everyday premium fuel formulated with powerful cleaning agents designed to provide unbeatable protection for your engine. And as you're filling up with Shell V-Power, it dawns on you, that feeling. You're on the road, free at last, with a full tank of Shell V-Power to fuel the feeling. Conditions apply.
Summer weekends on 2GB, thanks to Sofas by Ross Q. Sydney's best choice for loungers, crafted right here in Sydney. Tarrant Point Road, Carringbar, opposite McDonald's.
And just clarifying an earlier text message I had too, and they've got back to me, thank you, just to say they were saying that there is research, and they're citing October 2016, an ABC report, that strict law enforcement efforts against speeding cause drivers to look down more frequently at their dashboards to monitor their speed in driving simulations. While frequently checking the speedo would obviously help keep your speed in check, it does increase the risk of being involved in distracted driving accidents. So thank you for clearing that up for me. Look, there is efficacy in that, but I still make the point that if you're a good driver, you should have a pretty good idea what your speed is without having to look down all the time. But I take your point that a lot of people simply can't do that. They're either not experienced enough or they just simply need to look at that speedo. So I do understand that, and it's interesting that they have research on it. Now, John, a bit more detail on the top-selling cars.
Okay, so we go by brand. Let's start with the top 5 for 2021. So Toyota led the field quite significantly. 25 years straight, Toyota finished number 1, which is fantastic. Outselling number 2 and 3 combined. Mazda fell into position number 2, which is great.
Yeah.
They sold 101,000 cars, so it's a good number for Mazda.
And they've got a few SUVs, obviously, as well as their classic 3s and 6s.
Absolutely, yeah. Their range is really starting to grow in that SUV range, and quite popular. So Toyota 21.3%, Mazda 9.6% in second place. Hyundai finished third at 6.9%. Followed really closely. It was a real close battle between Hyundai and Ford. Only 0.1% difference, 6.8 in fourth place for Ford. And Kia was a remarkable leap. Kia finished at 6.5% share. I've got to say the same as Mitsubishi. They beat Mitsubishi by 232 cars. So Mitsubishi might be a little bit dirty about that. But the significant growth for Kia was good. 21% growth versus the previous year, which is fantastic.
Right.
Then we've got our luxury brands. Mercedes-Benz finished at number 1 last year, although they went backwards 8.8% versus the previous year. The only one in the top 5 that went backwards. BMW finished in second place at 5.8% growth. Audi, slight growth at 0.9%. Lexus was fantastic in position number 4, plus 5%. And Volvo was the winner in this in terms of growth. In position 5, that grew 17.2%. So, and they've got some really good product as well. When it looked at their SUV range, that's been really popular.
Does a lot of that sort of trend, John, and we looked obviously at the really obvious ones like Ford and Holden no longer have that supercar presence that's part of that relationship with the series. There's one thing. There's a whole lot of stuff. But obviously, does an exciting new model have an impact on some of those things?
Definitely. That's where people start changing brands.
Right.
And speaking of brands, we've had a lot of what we call orphan owners who are Holden customers. So where have they gone? That's why we've had the shift in Mazda. We've had the shift in the growth in Toyota, Ford, and Kia.
And how long before they stop going to the supercar races, I wonder?
Yeah, well, I've been asking that question. I don't know the answer to that. I thought you might know better than me.
Look, a lot of people have asked me that question because of my past involvement, but I really don't know because there's still that drive, the showroom relationship.
Yes,
win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Old thing. It's certainly dated now compared to what it used to be.
Still there for Ford owners, but Holden,
but how many people actually own a Ferrari but support Ferrari in Formula One?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you know what? If they can somehow try and retain that badge loyalty without it relating to the showroom, then they'll get somewhere.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that's not going to be easy though. That's all part of the sales job. Now, Lee's got some more information on the phone about driving overseas and makes an interesting point about Autobarns. G'day, Lee.
How you going, mate? Don't want to take your time too much, but just with a gentleman that commented about driving on Autobarns and at high speed. You're driving, I used to work out in the Gundagai, Wagga Wagga area. And the difference is between our roads and theirs is they don't have to keep an eye out for cattle, emus, horses,
kangaroos,
wallabies.
You
see the damage that they do. Yeah, that's right, mate. And hitting a wombat in the middle of the road is like hitting a brick.
Yep.
I've seen the damage of a car hit a kangaroo doing 110 kilometres an hour, and it makes people physically sick to see what it does to the car.
Yeah, absolutely, Lee.
There's a reason the speed's there, and one of the things that I used to do when I used to enforce the speed out there was just have a yarn to the drivers, and I'd never infringe. You'd always, as much as I'd probably get criticised for it, but I'd always downgrade the infringement notice because you'd want that mentality of the driver to say, listen, okay, I got pulled up for speeding. The copper didn't, nail me for what he could have done, but he just reminded me that I needed to keep an eye on my speed.
Yeah, sometimes the warning is as good, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you're looking at they exceed by 20 kilometres an hour from when I was working. It was about $420 I think, from memory, but exceed by 10 is 200. Now, you give that infringement notice of $200, that driver's always going to remember you as, okay, I got pulled up in this area for exceeding the speed limit. The copper was nice. He reminded me of that area. He didn't nail me financially. I'm always going to remember when I travel through that area, hey, that copper reminded me that the speed is what it is around here. I need to be more attentive to it.
Yeah, they did do that, Lee. Thank you. Look, there's a lot of merit in that, and I agree with it, but it does relate to good people who are always intending to do good things, but occasionally stray. Some people are just going to go, got away with that.
I was about to say exactly the same thing, Bill.
But look, it's a shame. I'd like to think there are very few of those people around, but anyway.
And the reference to Autobarns is an interesting one. We always talk about the speed of an Autobahn, but there's those who have driven an Autobahn, the width of an Autobahn.
That's a good point too.
Is 4 to 5 lanes. If we had roads like that in Australia, it'd be a different story as well.
But one thing we know is you'll be back next week to talk to Chris Smith again, of course, when he returns to the chair here. John Roca, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me. And
John
Happy
Roca.
New Year once again.
You too, mate. All things automotive with John Roca from Sydney City Lexus and Toyota.